The moment Karen Whitaker said those words across the potluck table, something inside me just snapped. "You're not half the resident Rebecca is." She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather, like it was just a fact I should have accepted years ago. The other neighbors kept spooning potato salad onto their plates. Rebecca looked down at hers with this little smile, like she'd been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. I pushed my folding chair back. The legs scraped against the concrete patio and every head turned. "Then she can start paying the clubhouse loan." The backyard went dead silent. Old Mr. Thompson's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Loan? What loan?" And that's when I realized they actually thought they'd gotten away with it. My name is Sarah Jenkins. I'm 29 years old, and I spent most of my life being invisible in my own neighborhood. Not because I was shy or quiet by nature. I just learned early that in Sunnyvale Estates, keeping your mouth shut was easier than fighting the HOA rules you were never going to win against anyway. I work as a financial analyst at a logistics company near the Portland Harbor. It's stable. It pays well. And honestly, I like it. There's something calming about numbers. They don't lie. They don't play favorites. 2 plus 2 always equals 4. Whether you're the model resident with the perfectly edged lawn or the one who once left a welcome mat out for 3 extra days and got slapped with a $50 fine. My life outside work is simple. I've got a modest townhome with a tiny view of the community clubhouse, the very same building that was about to be lost forever if someone didn't step in. I cook pasta on weeknights, read books on weekends, and try not to think too hard about the fact that I'm almost 30 and still showing up to every single HOA potluck like some kind of obligation I can't shake. Because that's the thing. I always showed up, every third Friday without fail. Karen used to announce over the group chat, "This community has a seat for you. Sarah, don't leave it empty." Half joking, half threatening with another violation notice if you skipped. And she would personally text if I was even 5 minutes late. Community first, she'd remind me. Though what she really meant was Rebecca first. Rebecca Lawson has always been the star of Sunnyvale Estates. Tall, confident, the kind of woman who walks into a potluck carrying a perfectly rule-compliant charcuterie board and expects everyone to pay attention. And they do. She was a debate champion in college, landed a cushy corporate law gig, and waltzed onto the HOA board before her moving truck even finished unloading. Me? I paid my own way through everything. Worked 2 jobs in college. Never asked for a single favor, because I learned pretty quick that asking meant getting compared to Rebecca, and that comparison never ended well for me. But I kept showing up to those potlucks because community was supposed to matter. Right? Wrong. It took me 29 years to figure out that showing up for people who don't see you is just another way of disappearing. The potlucks were always the same script. Karen would wheel out her famous and strictly HOA approved roast chicken. No garlic because strong odors offend the covenant. Mr. Thompson would ask the same surface-level questions about work. Rebecca would regale everyone with her latest board victory or how she advised on the finances. And I'd sit there pushing food around my plate, pretending the weight of being labeled the problem resident didn't crush me a little more each time. I'd been cited 3 times that year alone, once for my grass being 2.7 inches instead of the sacred 2.5, once for a bird feeder that was not on the approved color palette, and once for parking my car in the driveway for 12 minutes past the 6 p.m. cutoff. Karen loved to patrol in her golf cart, clipboard in hand, like a mall cop who'd finally found her kingdom. But that particular potluck, the one that changed everything, felt different from the start. Karen kept shooting me these weird sizing up looks, like she was calculating my next fine. Rebecca had this smug energy, like she knew a secret I didn't. Even Mr. Thompson seemed off, clearing his throat every few minutes like he was rehearsing an announcement. I should have left right then. I should have felt the storm building and just walked out the gate. But I didn't. We sat down and, like clockwork, the conversation turned to Rebecca. She's presenting at the regional HOA conference next month. Karen beamed, passing the salad bowl. They specifically asked for her. Isn't that something? She's always been exceptional, Mr. Thompson added, giving Rebecca that proud smile that made my stomach twist. Rebecca shrugged like it was nothing, but the satisfaction on her face was unmistakable. Well, they know talent when they see it. I took a bite of chicken and tried to swallow the resentment with it. I'd spent all day at work fixing a financial disaster someone else created, saving the company thousands. But that never made it to the potluck table. My accomplishments lived in the corners of the neighborhood newsletter, tucked between violation notices and forgotten event reminders. I tried anyway. I led a big project at work this week. My director said it was some of the best analysis he'd seen in years. Karen waved her hand like swatting a fly. You're doing fine, Sarah. But Rebecca's work impacts hundreds of residents. It's different. That little sting landed exactly where she wanted it. I looked down at my plate and reminded myself to breathe. Just another potluck. Just another night of biting my tongue. Then Mr. Thompson leaned back. Speaking of the community, Rebecca helped us sort through some loan paperwork last month. She's been such a blessing. My entire body went cold. Loan paperwork. Blessing. Rebecca grinned. It wasn't a big deal. Really, just looked over some documents. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. 3 years. 3 years of payments flashed through my mind. Every month without fail. I had transferred money to keep the Clubhouse loan from defaulting after Karen's disastrous renovation overspend. Money I should have used for vacations, grad school, a down payment on a non-HOA place. I'd sacrificed everything, turned down a promotion that required moving, skipped my best friend's wedding because I couldn't afford the trip after the payment, drove a car with 180,000 miles because a new one wasn't in the budget. I'd done it all quietly because the board kept saying it was temporary. Just this month. Sarah, we'll handle it next month. Don't tell the other residents. They have enough on their plates. And now here they were, rewriting history, giving Rebecca credit for something she never touched. The anger built slow, then hotter, until I couldn't hold it. Karen must have seen it on my face because she gave me that look, the one that always meant stay quiet or get fined. And then she said it. You're not half the resident Rebecca is. The words hung like poison. I don't think she expected me to respond. But something inside me finally woke up. I stood up. Then she can start paying the Clubhouse loan. The words came out calm, steady, like I'd rehearsed them my whole life. Mr. Thompson's face went white. Loan? What loan? I looked right at him. The payments for 3 years. Every single month. $2,300 without fail. The shock on their faces would have been funny if it wasn't so insulting. Karen recovered first. Sarah, don't be dramatic. We never asked you to. I cut her off. Voice stronger now. Every month. Just this once? Sarah, we'll handle next month. Don't let the bank send a notice. I have the payments. I have the bills. I have the bank confirmations. I have everything. Rebecca's face went pale. Wait, what are you talking about? I turned to her. You didn't know? Of course you didn't. Because they told me not to tell anyone. Said you had enough stress with your important board duties. Mr. Thompson tried. Sarah, this isn't appropriate. We're having a nice community potluck. Appropriate? I laughed. It didn't sound like me. What's appropriate is the truth. What's inappropriate is pretending Rebecca saved the Clubhouse I paid to keep standing. Karen's eyes filled with manipulative tears. We were going to pay you back. We just needed time. 3 years isn't time. Karen, it's a choice. And you chose to let me struggle while you threw parties for Rebecca's accomplishments. Rebecca's voice shook. Sarah, I swear I didn't know, but I wasn't listening. I watched them scramble to reframe the story. To shove the truth back into the box, they kept it in for 3 years. For the first time, I didn't shrink. I grabbed my bag. "Where are you going, Mr. Thompson?" asked, voice cracking. "Home. My home. The one I could have bought years ago if I hadn't been paying for the clubhouse everyone claims Rebecca saved." I walked out. The cool Oregon air hit my face, and my breath came out shaky, but not from regret. It was the shock of finally speaking up after 29 years of silence. My hands were trembling when I reached my townhome. I sat in the driveway for a full 10 minutes, just breathing, waiting for the guilt to crash in. It never came. That night, I opened my laptop and stared at the automatic payment screen that had drained $2,300 from my account on the 15th of every month for 36 months. I clicked cancel. The little box popped up. "Are you sure?" My finger hovered. 36 months. $82,800. That's what I'd given them. That's what they'd erased. I clicked yes. For the first time in 3 years, my bank account stayed full on the 15th, and the silence from the HOA board was deafening. No email, no violation notice, nothing. For 3 days, I kept checking my phone, part of me still expecting the apology that never arrived. On the 4th day, I stopped checking. I started running the neighborhood trails every morning just to quiet the shaking in my hands. So it became something more. It became freedom. Every step felt like proof I could exist outside their story. I joined a book club outside Sunnyvale Estates. Learned to make fresh pasta from scratch with people who had never heard of Karen Whitaker or her clipboard doom. Laughed with strangers who didn't need to know my violation history. I went on weekend hikes with coworkers who'd invited me for years. I'd always said no before, potluck obligations. Now I said yes. I started building a life that didn't revolve around earning approval from a woman who once fined a family $100 because their toddler's bike was visible for 20 minutes. Dark humor, right? The HOA charter read like a constitution written by a dictator with OCD. Grass must be exactly 2.5 inches or the apocalypse of unkempt lawns begins. No flags unless American, and only on approved holidays. Trash cans must be hidden before 8 a.m. Or face the wrath. Karen patrolled her little golf cart like a mall security guard who'd finally found her empire. And I had been the perfect invisible scapegoat. 2 weeks after I walked out, I got an email from Mrs. Ellis, the sweet elderly neighbor who'd watched me grow up in these houses. She sent a photo of the community bulletin board. A big banner stretched across it. "Congratulations, Rebecca, for preserving our community clubhouse." I stared until my vision blurred. Every late-night transfer, every ramen dinner so I could make the payment, every time I told myself community first, all of it erased, rewritten like I'd never existed. I didn't cry. I walked to my dining table, pulled out the folder I'd kept with every single payment record, bank statements, confirmation emails, screenshots of Karen's messages. "Just this month. Sarah, we'll handle it next month. Don't tell the board. We don't want them to worry." It looked less like paperwork and more like proof of everything they try to bury. That's what my friend Melanie from the book club called. "Sarah," she whispered like someone might overhear, "I think you should know. The HOA is planning a big community appreciation dinner next month in the clubhouse. They asked me to help put together the slideshow for Rebecca." My stomach dropped. "Of course they are. It's worse," Melanie said quietly. "They want to crown her as the reason the clubhouse was saved. They gave me captions. They're calling her the anchor of the entire neighborhood. Anchor. Savior. Hero. All words I had earned but never received. "Send me the file," I said. Melanie hesitated. "Are you sure? I don't want to make things worse." "I'm very sure." "Send it." When the slideshow arrived an hour later, I opened it and actually laughed, dark, bitter, the kind of laugh that comes when the absurdity finally hits. Photos of Rebecca standing proudly in front of the clubhouse. Karen hugging her on the steps. Rebecca holding up a set of keys like she'd single-handedly paid off the loan. Captions in fancy script. Thank you, Rebecca, for keeping our community clubhouse safe. Our hero. Our anchor. I made a copy and started adding what they'd erased. After their final slide, a group photo with Rebecca front and center, I inserted a new section, a clean timeline of 36 months of payments. Bar charts. Bank statements with my name highlighted. Screenshots of Karen's messages blurred for privacy, but crystal clear in meaning. And on the very last slide, I added a simple photo of the clubhouse with plain text. The truth deserves a place. 2. I saved it, backed it up to the cloud, and tucked a copy onto a USB drive I kept in my bag like a lifeline. Then I did something I've been putting off for months. I started looking at apartments in a non-HOA neighborhood 30 minutes away. Far enough that potlucks wouldn't be expected. Far enough to breathe. 3 weeks later, I signed the lease. The new place had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Hardwood floors that creaked just right. And most importantly, it was mine. No sacrifices required. No invisible payments draining my account. Just me finally choosing myself. I bought a gray sofa, a small oak table, one tall bookshelf, and plants I actually kept alive. For the first time, I walked into a space that belonged entirely to me, built by money I had earned and kept. The day after I moved in, the invitation arrived, an email from Karen, short and cold. Community appreciation dinner. Saturday, 7 p.m. Clubhouse. Dress nicely. No explanation. No apology. No acknowledgement of the silence that had stretched for weeks. I stared at the message a long time. Part of me wanted to unsubscribe from every HOA list and never look back. But the part of me that had stayed quiet for 29 years needed to finish this. I replied, I'll be there. When Saturday came, I didn't dress to impress them. I dressed for myself. Simple black dress. Favorite boots. Hair down. I looked in a mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked stronger, more solid, like she had finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. The clubhouse glowed with soft amber lights. Through the big windows, I could see everyone already inside. Karen at the head of the long table. Rebecca in an emerald dress holding court. Neighbors I hadn't seen in years all gathered around. I stood outside for a moment, watching the scene I had been written out of. Karen stood up and took the microphone. Thank you all for coming tonight, she said, voice warm and proud. We're here to honor our resident Rebecca, the one who stepped up during one of the most difficult times in our community's history. The one who helped us keep the clubhouse that's been the heart of Sunnyvale Estates for decades. The one who proved what it means to be there when it matters most. Applause rippled. Smiles. Cameras flashing. My jaw tightened. The slideshow started on the big screen in the corner. Rebecca on the steps looking confident. Rebecca holding papers, playing the hero perfectly. Rebecca next to Karen, both smiling like they'd conquered the world. Caption after caption painted a story that was never real. I pulled out my phone and opened the app that connected to the Clubhouse display system, the same system I called ahead about, claiming I was helping with the community presentation. One click. The screen flickered. Rebecca's smiling face vanished. A bar chart appeared, then another, then dates, payment amounts, bank statements, 36 months of financial support. Mine spread across the screen in perfect, undeniable clarity. The room went silent. You could hear a glass hit the table. A fork clatter. Karen and Rebecca froze. Faces draining of color. I stepped forward into the light. Walking through the door, I'd been standing outside. Every head turned. If the truth makes anyone uncomfortable tonight, I said, voice steady and clear, that's not my problem. Karen looked at me like I was a ghost. Rebecca's mouth fell open, her hand dropping mid-gesture. I walked toward the screen, heels clicking on the tile. For 3 years I paid the loan on that clubhouse, I said, looking around at all those familiar faces. Not 1 month. Every month. $2,300 for 36 months. That's $82,800. While working full-time. While putting off my own dreams. While you all, I gestured at Karen, told everyone how Rebecca saved the day. A neighbor gasped. Sarah, we had no idea. No one did, I said, because they asked me not to tell anyone. Said it would be embarrassing. Said it was temporary. Said Rebecca had enough stress with her important board duties. I looked at Rebecca. It was never about protecting you. Was it? It was about protecting their image. Karen tried to speak, voice shaking. Sarah, we should take this outside. This isn't the place. Why? I asked, not raising my voice. I didn't need to. You wanted everyone here to celebrate what Rebecca did. Why shouldn't they know what I did? Or does the truth only matter when it makes you look good? Whispers spread like wildfire. I knew something was off. She was always so busy enforcing the rules. 3 years, she paid all that, and they gave Rebecca the credit. Rebecca stood trembling, her perfect image cracking. I didn't ask them to do this. I swear I didn't know. You thought nothing, I said calmly. You didn't ask questions. You didn't wonder why the payments suddenly didn't need help. You just enjoyed being the hero in a story that was never yours. Karen's voice turned desperate. Sarah, please. We didn't want to embarrass you by making you seem like what? I cut her off. Like I mattered. Like I was capable. Like I was the resident who showed up when it counted. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. For the record, I said, turning back to everyone, I don't want a clubhouse. I don't want repayment. I don't even want credit. I just won't let you erase me. Not anymore. I looked at Karen one last time. I'm done making myself smaller so you can feel better about the choices you made. Then I turned and walked toward the door. Mr. Thompson reached out, hands shaking. Sarah, please wait. We could talk about this. But I didn't wait. I stepped outside into the cool night air and it hit my lungs like freedom. Behind me, voices rose. Arguments started. The careful story they had built collapsing in real time. But I kept walking. This wasn't revenge. It was release. 2 days later, someone knocked on my new apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw them. Karen and 2 board members standing in the hallway, looking smaller and older than I had ever seen them. Part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't home. But I opened the door. They stepped inside slowly, taking in the windows, the books, the life I had built without them. Karen spoke first, voice quieter than I had ever heard it. Sarah, we're sorry. The words sounded foreign coming from her mouth. We were wrong, Mr. Thompson added, and I could see how hard it was for him. We shouldn't have let the story become something it wasn't. We shouldn't have asked you to carry so much alone. We shouldn't have. He trailed off like the list was too long to finish. Karen's hand shook. We want to make it right. We want to acknowledge your contributions publicly. We want to pay you back. I don't need it, I said, and I meant every word. I have a home now, my own. What I needed was respect, honesty, to be seen. You can't put those things on a deed or a plaque. They fell silent. The truth sat between us, heavy and real. I'm not angry anymore, I said quietly. But I'm done disappearing to make you comfortable. If we rebuild anything, it has to start from that. From me being visible. From me mattering. Not just when it's convenient. Karen nodded, tears streaming. Real ones this time. Mr. Thompson looked at the floor. We understand, I asked. Do you? Because understanding means change. Real change. Not just apologizing when you get caught. We'll do better, Karen whispered. If you let us try. I looked at them. The people who had run this little kingdom. Who had hurt me. Who had taught me that belonging came with conditions I could never quite meet. Maybe, I said. But it starts with the truth. All of it. No more pretending. No more rewriting history to make yourselves feel better. They nodded. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was an opening, a crack in the wall, a place where honesty could finally live. When they left, I walked to my balcony and looked out over the skyline. The city lights blinked against the dark. For 29 years, I had been waiting for the HOA to see me. But I had finally learned to see myself. And that was enough. I stood there long after they left, watching the city breathe below me. For years, I thought keeping the peace meant keeping quiet. I thought being the good resident meant swallowing every fine, every slight, every erasure. But silence doesn't protect you. It erases you. Choosing myself didn't break the community. It finally broke the story that kept me small, the story that said my worth was measured by how little space I took up, how quiet I stayed, how much I could give without asking for anything back. That story was a lie. And I'm done living inside lies, even comfortable ones. The truth is messy. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't fit neatly into the narrative people want to tell about themselves. But it's mine, and I'm finally brave enough to speak it. Back in Sunnyvale, the fallout spread fast. Neighbors who had once nodded politely when Karen patrolled now stopped her in the street demanding answers. The newsletter that used to sing Rebecca's praises suddenly ran a correction, small print. But there, Karen's golf cart patrols grew less frequent. Her clipboard seemed to weigh heavier. Some residents even started questioning the ridiculous rules themselves. Why exactly 2.5 inches? Why no bird feeders? A few brave souls put up small American flags in June and waited for the fine that never came. The kingdom was cracking, and the queen was losing her crown. I didn't stay to watch the whole show. 30 days after the dinner, I finished packing the last box and drove away from Sunnyvale Estates for good. In my rearview mirror, the perfectly manicured lawns looked smaller. The clubhouse, just another building. The whole place finally in perspective. I had paid $82,800 to keep their dream alive, and in return they had tried to erase me. But I had taken my voice back, and that was worth every cent. A month later, I got one last email from the board. It was short. They had voted to change a few rules, nothing dramatic, but the grass length requirement was relaxed to a range. Bird feeders were now allowed, if tasteful, and future loans would require full transparency. They also included a check for $10,000, a gesture of good faith. I deposited it, then forwarded the email to Melanie with a single line. The truth finally got its seat at the table. I never went back to a potluck. I never had to. My new apartment became my sanctuary. Weekend brunches with real friends. Evenings on the balcony, watching the city lights instead of Karen's golf cart. Mornings where the only rule was the one I set myself. Numbers still call me at work, but now they serve me. Not a neighborhood that never saw me. And every once in a while, when I drive past Sunnyvale Estates on the highway, I smile, just a little, remembering the night the clipboard queen's kingdom came undone because one quiet resident finally refused to stay invisible. The HOA still exists. Of course. Karen still sends emails. Rebecca still posts perfect photos on the community page. But something fundamental shifted. Residents talk more openly at meetings. Questions are asked instead of swallowed. And somewhere in the back of someone's mind, the story of the woman who paid $82,800 in secret and then refused to let it be erased lives on. Not as a cautionary tale, but as proof that even the smallest voice can topple the biggest lie when it finally decides to speak. I don't regret a single month of those payments. They bought me something far more valuable than a clubhouse. They bought me the moment I stood up, the moment I walked out, the moment I chose myself. And that, dear neighbors, is the one investment no HOA rule can ever find. The truth is messy. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't fit neatly into the narrative people want to tell about themselves. But it's mine, and I'm finally brave enough to speak it.